I thought today was one of the days that we would have speaker's choice of topics. So I spent time yesterday and today thinking about topics.
Maybe they'll fit in with
What's that?
so maybe they'll fit in with whatever.
You know what, Esther, you know what extemporaneous means? What does it mean? Someone?
It means looks like spontaneous speaking, but unprepared.
Unprepared, yeah.
Unprepared speaking.
The common phrase in America is off the cuff. I have no cuffs. So let us make our petition to the Supreme Lord to please give us some knowledge. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Gaura Premananda. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Yasan Tato Jayamudirayat Nasta Presa Vandreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttamasaloke Bhakti Bhavati Nastaki Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. So our text for today is coming from the third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 12. And we'll be reading text 21 through 33, and then coming back and focusing on text number 28. So if you haven't read this in preparation for today, shame on you. You're in the same boat I'm in. So let's begin. Let's see. Anna, would you please begin by reading text number 21, translation only, please.
Brahma, who was empowered by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, thought of generating living entities and begot 10 sons for the extension of the generations.
Okay. Esther?
Marichi, Atri, Angira, Pulastia, Pulaha, Kratu, Brigu, Basista, Daksa, and the 10th son, Narada, were thus born.
Okay, so Narada Muni. He's pretty well known, and he's even though he's considered to be Jiva soul, still he is one of the first 10 sons of Lord Brahma. So we consider him to be one of the greatest Vaishnavas in our universe. He is so pure-hearted, so sold out to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, that he can travel anywhere within the universe, including the heavenly planets, and he can travel outside this universe as well, to the Vaikuntha planets. So he's very dear to Lord Krishna, and Lord Krishna is very dear to him. Okay, please, number 23.
Narada was born from the deliberation of Brahma, which is the best part of the body. Vashishta was born from his breathing, Daksha from a thumb, Brigu from his touch, and Kratu from his hand.
Okay. Interesting that we have living entities who are born from a person, different parts of the person's body. So this means that the body of Lord Brahma is not ordinary. Okay. Who is back there? Okay, please, just Adyumna Prabhu.
Pulastia was generated from the ears, Angira from the mouth, Atri from the eyes, Marichi from the mind, and Pulaha from the navel of Brahma.
Notice that in text number 23, Narada Muni was the one mentioned first here in the Srimad Bhagavatam, the first of 10, even though he was listed as the 10th son in the previous verse. Okay, please.
Religion was manifested from the breast of Brahma, wherein is seated the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayana. And irreligion appeared from his back, where horrible death takes place for the living entity.
Okay, so the backside is the place where horrible death takes place for the living entity. Do you remember, those of you who are familiar, conversant with the Old Testament, New Testament of the Holy Bible? Do you remember that when Moses went up into the mountain to talk with the Lord while the children of Israel were wandering around in the desert, it was said that he was put in a crevice between two rocks, and the Lord passed by and he could see only the backside of the Lord. So some Christians have come up with the idea that if you see the face of the Lord, you cannot live, you will die. I've also heard it said that if you see Krishna, you will faint. And if you see Srimati Radharani, you will die. She is so beautiful. Okay, who's going to read next?
Lust and desire became manifested from the heart of Brahma, anger from between the eyebrows, greed from between his lips, the power of speaking from his mouth, the ocean from his penis, and low and abominable activities from his anus, the source of all sins.
So the body, even though we're mentioning some parts of the body here which are not very pleasant to talk about, but for the Supreme Lord, he can do anything with any part of his body or any other part of his body. It doesn't matter. His body is then omnipotent or omnipotent. Okay, text number 27, please.
Sage Karmda, husband of the great Devahuti, was manifested from the shadow of Brahma. Thus all became manifested from either the body or the mind of Brahma.
Who was reading? You're conversant also with the text, with the Srimad Bhagavatam. You know the text. Have you read this before?
This verse?
Who is reading? Luke. You were reading just now. Well, that was very well done.
Thank you.
I thought you were new. You're reading like a person who's been around for a while.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Let's go on to the next one. 27. Did we go to 27? Yeah.
I think he just read 20, yeah. 28. O Vidura, we have heard that Brahma had a daughter named Vak, who was born from his body and who attracted his mind towards sex, although she was not sexually inclined towards him.
Okay, we did read 27 then, right? Luke read 27? Okay. Okay, so
Thus, finding their father so deluded in an act of immorality, the sages, headed by Marichi, all sons of Brahma, spoke as follows with great respect.
okay, so deluded. All right, now, let me point out one thing here, and that is that we're not talking about the Brahma who is presently in our universe. This is from a previous age. And it's been pointed out that even though this Brahma made a mistake, he was affected by the material energy, even though this daughter, Vak, who was born from his body, he became attracted toward, even though she was his own daughter. So then the sons of Brahma, headed by Marichi, spoke with, notice this, they spoke with great respect. So even though their father had committed an impropriety, he was still to be spoken to with respect. So let's go on. Who's reading next? Anna, please. Text number 30.
O Father, this performance in which you are endeavoring to complicate yourself was never attempted by any other Brahma, nor by anyone else, nor by you in previous kalpas, nor will anyone dare to attempt it in the future. You are the supreme being in the universe, so how is it that you want to have sex with your daughter and cannot control your desire?
Okay, so this is instructive to us, and if it were not so, then it would probably not have been spoken by Shukadeva Goswami to King Parikshit. So even though we see that a great personality like Lord Brahma is very powerful, and his body is amazing compared to our bodies, still he can be attracted by the material energy and it's not his material energy. That's why he can be attracted by it. This is the material energy of the Supreme Lord, which is more powerful than the ordinary jivas, even one who is not ordinary like Brahma. Okay, text number 31, please, Esther.
Even though you are the most powerful being, this act does not suit you because your character is followed for spiritual improvement by people in general.
Okay, so I think that's as far as we're going to read, and we're going to go back to 28, and I want you to please pass the 30, oh, I'm sorry, beg your pardon. Correct. I've got 31 on mine. All right, so let's go to text number 32, please.
31 stuff.
Oh, did we not just?
Oh, sorry, excuse me, yes.
So, who's going to read 32? Who? Yes, please.
Let us offer our respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead, who by his own effulgence, while situated in himself, has manifested this cosmos. May he also protect religion for all goodness.
So they switched from talking about Lord Brahma to now the Supreme Personality of Godhead, situated himself. May he also protect religion for all goodness. So after this improper behavior that these sons of Brahma have observed, now it seems as though they are the ones that are praying. May he also protect religion for all goodness. Okay, so it wasn't like a really strong their father, but it was something said with the respect. So let's see. Text number 30. I would like for you, please, would somebody take the microphone over to Mother Prabhupada Priya, please.
33. The father of all Prajapatis, Brahma, thus seeing all his Prajapati sons speaking in that way, became very much ashamed, and at once gave up the body he had accepted. Later, that body appeared in all directions as the dangerous fog in darkness.
Oh, this is really interesting and beautiful. Now, I would like this kept with Mother Prabhupada prayer, please. So the body, Lord Brahma, seeing that all his Prajapati's sons, speaking in that way, became very much ashamed, and at once gave up the body he had accepted. That body later appeared in all directions as a dangerous fog in the darkness. So we can see that when we make mistakes as rather insignificant living entities, nobody really notices, as long as it's not just a huge mistake. But whenever Lord Brahma makes a mistake, then it's noticed by everyone, and it's even becomes historical fact. Mother Prabhupada Priya, would you please go back to text number 28? And I think what we'll do here, we'll recite this verse by verse and repeat. So I'll do that first. Vacham duritaram tanvin. Vacham duritaram tanvim. Swayambhur haritim manah. Swayambhur haritim manah. Akamam chakame chatta. Akamam chakame chatta. Sakama itina shrutam. Sakama itina shrutam. All right, word for word translations. Vacham, vak. Duritaram, duhitaram, unto the daughter. Tanvim, born of his body. Swayambhu, Brahma. Haratim, attracting. Manah, his mind. Akamam, without being sexually inclined. Chakame, desired. Shata, Ovidura. Sakama, being sexually inclined. Iti, thus. Na, we. Shrutam, have heard. Okay, let's see. Mother Prabhupada Priya, would you please read the translation again and then the entire purport?
O Vidura, we have heard that Brahma had a daughter named Vak, who was born from his body and who attracted his mind towards sex, although she was not sexually inclined towards him. Purport. Balavan indriyo gramo vidvamsham apikarshati. Bhagavatam 9:19-17. It is said that the senses are so mad and strong that they can bewilder even the most sensible and learned man. Therefore, it is advised that one should not indulge in living alone, even with one's mother, sister, or daughter. Vidvamsham apikarshati means that even the most learned also become victims of the sensuous urge. Maitreya hesitated to state this anomaly on the part of Brahma, who was sexually inclined to his own daughter, but still he mentioned it, because sometimes it so happens, and the living example is Brahma himself, although he is the primal living being and the most learned within the whole universe. If Brahma could be a victim of the sexual urge, then what of others who are prone to so many mundane frailties? This extraordinary immorality on the part of Brahma was heard to have occurred in some particular kalpa, But it could not have happened in the kalpa in which Brahma heard directly from the Lord the 4 essential verses of Srimad Bhagavatam, because the Lord blessed Brahma, after giving him lessons on the Bhagavatam, that he would never be bewildered in any kalpa whatsoever. This indicates that before the hearing of Srimad Bhagavatam, he might have fallen a victim of such sensuality. But after hearing Srimad Bhagavatam directly from the Lord, there was no possibility of such failures. One should, however, take serious note of this incident. The human being is a social animal, and his unrestricted mixing with the fair sex leads to downfall. Such social freedom of man and woman, especially among the younger section, is certainly a great stumbling block on the path of spiritual progress. Material bondage is due only to sexual bondage, and therefore unrestricted association of man and woman is surely a great impediment. Maitreya cited this example on the part of Brahma just to bring to our notice this great danger.
Thank you very much. So we'll say again, Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chaksurun Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Vitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadama Swavadantikam. So if Lord Brahma can be victimized by the material energy of the Lord, what to speak of us? So therefore we understand that the sexual enjoyment is the most extreme pleasure available in this material world. And it is also the one activity which, if not learned by the living entity to control, will cause the living entity to come back again, to take repeated birth and death. I've read it that Srila Prabhupada has said that for one who has overcome the urge for sexual enjoyment, for sense gratification in that way, that he's practically liberated from this material world. That doesn't mean that he goes back to Vaikuntha, however. Means that he can go to the heavenly planets, but he will have to progress further if he has not developed pure attraction for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So one of the most outstanding examples that we have of a young person who was trained in Brahminical qualities, he took his birth in a Brahminical family, was Ajamil, or as we are accustomed to saying, Ajamil. Ajamil, and he was wandering in the forest collecting plants and maybe a little firewood for his father to perform sacrifices. And he came upon a couple that were engaged in sexual play in the forest. And he stayed and watched, and his mind became very attracted to it. So the question is, what should he have done when he came upon such a sight? What do you think? What should he have done?
Left.
What?
He should have left.
Left how?
Quickly.
Very quickly, very quickly.
Should have followed the rule of 3.
What is that? What is it?
There wasn't there? Okay, never mind. But he should have been.
So anyhow, he later gave up his beautiful young wife. He gave up his devotional activities to his parents, and he went and found this woman who was a prostitute, and he married her. Apparently the marriage lasted for a pretty long time, because even when he was in his 80s, he bore a child, or he gave a child to this wife. And this child for some reason, he named him what? Narayan. So quite a name to give his child. So when it came time for him to depart from his body, Who came to greet him? Yamadutas. And who are the Yamadutas? Servants of Yamaraj, the Lord of Death. And what they do is that they take the soul as he's exiting the body, and they tie him and force him to walk along a long path. And all along the path are the animals that are known as Ruru monsters, or Ruru dogs. Big dogs that are extremely fearful, and they bite the living entity who has been very sinful. Bite him on the way to Lord Yamaraj, to Yamaraj, his court. Now, that interesting connection here is that Maitreya is speaking with whom? Vidura. And who is Vidura in another lifetime? Yamaraj. So, Vidura is getting to hear all of these things, even though he's probably very knowledgeable. And it's also stated that Yamaraj, I mentioned this before, Yamaraj is practically on the same level of cognizance as Super Soul, Antaryami. Or what's another name for Super Soul? Paramatma. Yes. Vidura here is listening to what happened to Lord Brahma, and it appears that Lord Brahma did not have to go to the court of Yamaraj. It's not stated, at least, but rather it's just stated that he gave up his body, and that was in part, I guess, atonement for his actions.
He didn't actually commit the sin of, he didn't actually touch his daughter. He just, in his mind, he had the attraction, but he stopped.
Well, we also know that, thank you very much for that, that's a good point. We know that in previous ages, just thinking of performing some sexual act or some act is not appropriate, a person can be punished for that. But it's said in the age of Kali, we don't receive reactions for the thoughts that come into our minds. However, it has been pointed out that if the thought comes into your mind, then there's a really good chance that you'll be encouraged to take that act of whatever it was to fruition, and at that point, you will get reactions that you have to suffer for, either in this lifetime or in another lifetime. But certainly, as long as one is attracted by the sexual act, then he will have to remain in this cycle of repeated birth and death. So Ajamil then saw this act performed, and he was very much attracted by it. And he gave up his Brahminical life and became very, very degraded. I think it was said that he would even steal from other people and even kill other people to provide for this wife of his. So when he was about to be taken by the Yamadutas then to the court of Yamaraj, someone came and intervened and would not let the Yamadutas take him. And who was that intervened? Vishnudutas. So just as we have Yamadutas, who are the servants of the Lord of Death, we have Vishnudutas, who are the servant of the Lord of Life. All life. And that's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So the Vishnudutas then explained. There was an argument there, and they said, this man has been so cruel and has broken so many rules and hurt so many people that how can he other than go to hell? And the Vishnuduta said, yes, but this is something you haven't taken into account. At the time of his departure, that he was about to depart from his body, and he saw the Yamadutas coming, whose name did he call out? Narayan. And it was said to be unmotivated. In other words, he was not trying to escape from his punishment by calling out the name of Narayan, but he was simply calling for his little son. He said, "Come, come, Narayan." And so, as a result of that, Yamaduta said, by speaking the name of Narayan, he has become freed from all of his sins. Can you get that? So, now somebody might say, well, oh, that's good. All right, so Saturday night I'll go out and have fun, and then on Sunday I'll chant Narayan, Narayan. But that's called motivated chanting, and it's a very great offense to the holy name of the Lord. And it will not do you any good. As a matter of fact, it's very detrimental to the living entity to call out the name of the Lord to try to mitigate the effects of the offense that you have committed. So, no playing games with the Supreme Lord. He is seated within our hearts, and he knows whether we're motivated or not, materially motivated, to chant his holy names. So we understood then that the Vishnudutas then released him from the Yamadutas, but then he went somewhere within this world, within this material world, and practiced bhakti yoga. And I think it's my understanding that after doing that, then when he was ready to leave his body, he went back to Vaikuntha. So that's a pretty good story, isn't it? And it's also, I understand that didn't the sons of Brahma or someone, anyhow, there was someone among the demigods who criticized a higher authority than themselves. I don't know if that was the Lord Brahma or not. But anyhow, they had to suffer coming into down to this planet as a result of that insult that they committed. So two things then we have to note here is that first of all, we don't play around with the material energy without getting burned. And the most detrimental form of enjoyment is also the form of enjoyment that gives us the greatest amount of pleasure in this material world, and that is sexual contact. And so if one is really determined then to get out of this material world in this lifetime, then maybe he's not a pure devotee yet. But if he's really determined, we would say that he doesn't necessarily want liberation from this material world. Why? Anyone? Ulterior motivation? So, desire for liberation is another material desire. That's a good answer. Anybody else want to give something there?
Is the question, why wouldn't somebody want liberation?
Why would someone not want liberation? Yeah, everybody does. Is that the question?
Is that your question? Is that your question?
Oh.
We've got inception.
Yes. So the question, yeah, that could be phrased that way. Yes. Why should anyone not want liberation? Yes. Go ahead, please. What happened to our second one? Did it die?
It's causing static.
Oh, I see.
Well, because people are under illusion, they think that the body, they think that this life is it, they think that there are things in this world that can actually make them happy and give them satisfaction, and they're just living under this illusion.
Okay, so liberation can mean then that one merges into the Brahmajyoti. That's one form of liberation. Well, what's wrong with that?
You can't stay there. You
what?
can't stay. You can't stay there, and also
can't
it's not,
stay there.
It's not satisfying because the standard of happiness is not. It's not what the soul is seeking. You know, the soul is seeking happiness through loving exchanges, loving relationship with Krishna and devotees, and you don't have any relationships in the Brahmajyoti. There's no activities.
Yeah, I've heard it described as being a situation like you're a little speck of light, and you're buzzing around in this big space, and with all the other little specks of life, but there's no interaction. There's no pleasure. There's no opportunity to perform service to the Supreme Lord. So it is said that just as a person might go up in an airplane, and if he could stay up in the air for several hours, eventually he'd want to come back and get something nice to eat and someone nice to talk to. I mean, you can be by yourself just for so long, unless you're a very advanced sage and you happen to be living in a cave in the Himalayas. Then you will want some association. We're social beings, aren't we? And so we understand then that Ajamil did not receive liberation into the Brahman effulgence, but rather he had the opportunity to further perfect his spiritual life. And at this point, I'm going to discontinue and ask if anyone would like to make some further comments or questions. Let's start out with questions first. See, does anybody have any questions you'd like to ask about the topic that we're discussing today? And I'll ask you not to speak unless you got a microphone in your hand. Just to do them the Prabhu. Oh, happy 19th birthday, by the way. We're about, what, a week late now?
Thank you. I was kind of wondering, for the kind of from an outside perspective, if you read this and you're not very familiar with like Krishna consciousness or how heavy the Srimad Bhagavatam can be, you can read that you shouldn't even be around your own mother alone, and you're like, what the heck? This seems very strict. So maybe you could give some more, I guess, perspective on that.
Right. Srila Prabhupada has made that statement, hasn't he? That one should not be alone with one's mother, one's sister, one's daughter. It's okay to be alone with your wife if you happen to be a married person. But even then, you have to be you have to be disciplined. What else did you want to say?
So a lot of us have, we have mothers, we have sisters and stuff like that, and so it seems kind of almost extreme or very strict to say like you can't even sit on the same seat as your own mother or be around your mother. Just if you have any perspective on that.
I understand that Srila Prabhupada was with some of his disciples and they were attending a big program, Pandal, and that everyone was chanting Jai Prabhupada. At the end, they were so much impressed, the audience was so much impressed, they were saying Jai Prabhupada, Jai Prabhupada. And Prabhupada, as he was walking off the stage, said to his disciples, you know why they're saying Jai Prabhupada? He said, it's because I have given up sex life. I don't have any attraction to sex life. And I understand that Prabhupada also said that we could enter a room. I could enter a room full of beautiful girls and not be affected. He told that to his disciples. And then he added, but I would not enter such a room. So he also made the statement that it seems that my disciples are not afraid of Maya, not afraid of the material energy. They think they can play with Maya and not get burned. So even breaking one of the principles, one of the four principles that we live by, they call the principles of freedom. No illicit sex, no intoxication, no gambling, and no meat eating. Even breaking one of those principles will lead to breaking another. It is said. For example, if you're if you go to Las Vegas, has anybody been to Las Vegas? I understand it's quite a sight. Do you have? And you're still here. just to doing Prabhu stuck up his hand. Yes, so Las Vegas is a place where you can, go from one to the other. They provide you intoxication, and when you get intoxicated, then you want to go gamble, and you earn some money, and then you can buy more things. You can buy all kinds of foods there, which include animal flesh. And then after you've had your intoxication and your gambling and your eating of all kinds of horrible foods, then you want to go and get a prostitute. So one leads to the next. If you break one of the principles, then it's a good chance you're going to be led to breaking another principle. Is there any other comment or question that you have, please? This is Nanda Braj Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Thank you so much for the class. I appreciate your off the cuff explanation of Srimad Bhagavatam. Sometimes for Krishna House we get questions like, questions about how we can be an ashram, and we have men and women in the ashram because of things like this, like, that sex desire is so strong, especially in the age of Kali. And so I was thinking about how, in this culture, American culture, we grow up, quite a few of us, going to school with a situation where it's co-ed school, co-ed university. Everything's, there's not so much of that propensity to keep the opposite sex away. So I just wanted to make a comment about our thought about how, as you mentioned, that we shouldn't play with Maya or play with the material energy. So in Krishna House, this is why we have the rules that we have. We can sometimes think, I'm in this nice family atmosphere, and I'm, these are my brothers and sisters. But we have rules that are made so that things like this don't get to be a problem. The rule of 3, we typically, with the opposite gender, keep conversations to service. We don't electronically communicating with the opposite sex or these things. So my point is to you guys in the Krishna House directly is this is exactly why we have some of these rules. So don't think it can't happen to you. Don't think it can't happen to you. Be careful, follow it, because the priority right now is in your lives, and in all of our lives should be, is to develop that relationship with Krishna, strengthen that that relationship with Krishna, and that's our focus. And so please be respectful of the rules so that things like this can't distract us from that. Hare Krishna.
Same rules go for a householder. Very much the same kind of rules that the talk. Of course, now many of us were married before we came to Krishna consciousness, and we already had established a relationship with our mates. But for one who is considering to get married, then one of the first letters that I ever received from a devotee was from a boy who was up at New Vrindavan community. And at that time, I was extremely new, and so I think I asked him the question, what about sexual contact between husband and wife? And he made the statement at that time, which could rather shocked me, and it was that same rules apply for brahmacharis or householders. Almost the same. Of course, we have license as householders for a certain amount of enjoyment, but that, especially for sexual contact, that should be intended only for producing good children, good offspring. And if you have a child that you really didn't want, then what is the term that we call such a child? What is it? Varna Sankara. Is it Varna? Varna. Varna Sankara. Unwanted progeny. And this was one of the concerns of Arjuna when he was talking with Krishna right before the battle of Kurukshetra, that if I go ahead and kill all of these persons who are here on both sides, mainly on the opposite side, if I have to kill them, then there's a good chance then that the women will be unprotected and they will be taken advantage of by unscrupulous men, and therefore unwanted progeny will be produced, and that will be the cause of the downfall of the whole society. So he's given us good warnings. We're out of time now. I want to thank you all very much for coming and being with me and helping me to give a class today. Pleasure to be with you. So we'll say, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai, Shri Radha Kalachandjidam Ki Jai, Gaura Premananda. And we offer our respectful obeisances and all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord who are just like desire trees, who fulfill the desires of everyone and who are full of compassion for the fallen conditioned souls. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripasindubhya eva cha patitanam bhavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Anantakoti Vaishnavrinda Ki Jai. If you get time today, chant the holy names, chant the holy names, chant the holy names. Hare Krishna.